Start.
She's a winner.
And welcome to the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show, where we bring enlightened entrepreneurs, coaches, and influencers together to discuss cutting-edge topics for the world of relationships, culture, business, and spirituality. Here's your host, Max Anjanetta Jones.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of the Interpretive Entrepreneur Show. You know, we say if you have a little bit of courage, just a little bit, and you hire a good coach like me, we're going to quickly get you into the effective action steps that you get to take to go from where you are to where you really want to be faster and easier. Who doesn't want to get somewhere faster and easier, right?
Yes.
And I'm so excited today to have our two guests on because they're going to talk to you about what they do to help you get from where you are to where you want to be faster and easier. Dr. Patricia, tell us where you're at in the world and what you're doing.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Patricia. Based in Tucson, Arizona. I'm an integrative and functional women's health expert. So I'm an MD. I have a brick and mortar and an online coaching program for women who wants to have it all, essentially, overcome the burnout, live balanced mind, body, spirit, and ultimately live in alignment with their purpose. Mhm.
That's awesome. So, did you have your brick and mortar when COVID was first happening, or did you open it after COVID? How did that work for you?
I've been open since 2019, so right before COVID, which was ideal because I became a mom, which is part of the story why I finally quit corporate medicine or evolving door medicine and finally serve women the way I feel we deserve.
Oh, good. I'm going to come back to you in a minute. I want to hear about concierge medicine. Up next is Johanna from Puerto Rico. Tell us what you do in the world.
Hey. Well, I own a yoga school. I own an internationally certified yoga school, and I travel the world teaching yoga and helping people understand the philosophy of yoga, which is that yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of your mind. It really has nothing to do with a physical practice. Can we get there through the body? Yes, but there's also many different ways. So part of what I do is teach yoga teachers how to become yoga teachers and get them certified to teach yoga. And I also developed a program called ELM, an evolutionary life mapping system, which helps people, much like Dr. Patricia, kind of go from understanding how their mindset and their life began to manifest the way that it is, why they're anything but happy, and why they want to change the way that it's manifesting, and then how to implement the tools, whether I can help them or I can build a team for them. That's what we do. Kind of, that's why they call me the personal assistant for life. I figure out what you need and I help you implement it.
Oh, that's cool. Nobody told me that you were the personal assistant for life. That's awesome. And I noticed in reading the information that you sent us that you also, teach meditation. And I looked at that and I was like, oh man, is that something
Yeah.
I keep saying up until today, I'm not very good at meditation. But
Well, the fact of the matter is that yoga is a part of meditation, and even like it's not separate from meditation. It's actually what you aim to do even through a physical practice. It's just that we're not really being taught that at the moment. We're focused so much on the body that we're forgetting the 5,000-year-old philosophy that really helps you understand life at a much deeper level.
well, one of the things that I'm improving upon, a friend of mine said, Carol, you don't have to sit and go to meditate. He said, because I go for walks a lot. He said, I want you to go for a walk and turn your mind off and only hear the sound of your footsteps. See how
That's
long
called
you
a
get.
mindfulness meditation.
Yeah, see how you. And some days I'm pretty good, and other days I'm like off talking.
Yeah, the goal is to start becoming the observer of our thoughts. Right now, we are very identified with our ego and what our thoughts are telling us, and we are full of judgment towards others and ourselves. And yoga helps you sort of disconnect from those thoughts to understand that you are not those thoughts. And if those thoughts don't serve you, you really don't need to go there with your mind and have those conversations in your mind.
Awesome. So, Dr. Patricia, we haven't forgotten about you. Talk a little bit about in your practice, does the things that Johanna does, yoga and meditation, does that come into your practice as well? And if not, tell us how yours is different.
Absolutely. Yoga is definitely one of my personal favorite tool in regulating my nervous system, connecting the whole spectrum of being. And it's one of my top recommendation because I believe that It's a way to really connect mind, body, and spirit. And yoga for me is like union, like connecting everything and harmonizing everything, either through movement, through breath, through mindfulness.
I love it.
So I'd like to ask you a question, because if you see me fidgeting here a little bit, my back recently went out. It was injured in a car wreck, and I was in the shower 2 Sundays ago and basically couldn't get out of the shower. So I have avoided yoga. And when I look at all that stretching, I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to end up on the floor or I'll end up back in the bed. So I would like to hear both of your opinion on how you would help or work with someone who's been injured and they're just going to begin trying to do yoga. So, Dr.
Yeah, well,
Patricia, what would you do?
So, great question. I think back pain is one of the most common things I see, and I would still recommend yoga. The tip number one is let comfort be your guide. So, you want it to be easy. Yoga shouldn't feel like you're straining or competing with yourself or others to hit that pose in a way. So, it should still, you need to be the mirror or the guide, how you can navigate back that fluidity or that pleasure instead of pain. um, so I would advise kind of coming into yoga, if you're curious about using yoga as a healing tool, experimenting rather than being so rigid on the outcome or doing it right. I believe there's no right or way. You are the right or way or
Mm,
wrong. Um, but on an empirical basis, like a broader perspective, it is scientifically proven to really minimize the pain receptors and to help your fascia or that connective tissue that is heavily innervated, no, by the nerves to send pain or pleasure. It can really kind of recalibrate how the fascia is organized so that you heal on a deeper level. So that's kind of the individual approach. Let you be the guide,
mhm.
and then the empirical perspective, which is it is data driven.
Fantastic. How about you, Johanna?
yeah, I agree. Yoga is for everybody, but you have to meet yourself where you are. So, as Patricia said, there is no competition in yoga. The only person that you're mirroring is yourself, and you're attempting to figure out how your body is manifesting and what things can benefit your body. So, believe it or not, Carol, a lot of back pain is actually lack of strength in the back. And we're always sitting, we're always lengthening, we're always rounding. What's missing is the back bending. And actually, back bends are super, super healthy. But when our back hurts, we don't want to do a back bend because we think stretching is what we want to do. So, things that I recommend, maybe not even just yoga, a little bit outside of yoga, are pulling exercises. Exercise where you're pulling the muscle and
Mhm.
you're using the resistance. So things like lat pull downs, especially with bands, um, or resistance bands, they're the best for injuries like that, because what it does is it helps you lengthen in your body as you're becoming stronger. Versus
Mm,
pushing movements help to compress you a bit. So
okay.
and then in yoga, another thing that's really important as you move is there's two things. There's the pranayama, which is the type of breath that you'll be doing during any specific practice. And there's also something called the bandhas, which are the energetic locks of the body. When you learn how to engage your bandhas, and you have to engage your bandhas properly to get the proper breath, what happens is you let your body and your breath be what tells you when you're hitting a limit. Because when you get to a certain point, you can no longer breathe a certain way and you can no longer hold your bandhas. So your body itself is telling you, hey, if you're like in the pose, you know that because your breath isn't smooth, your body is telling you that that pose is beyond what you want to do. So you actually learn to really listen, as Dr. Patricia said, to your body, and you connect your mind, your body, and your breath, because the only way to truly incorporate the practice and stay honest in your practice is by being internal and watching the body and the breath as they work together without any of them straining the other one, which is that beautiful balance, of course, that yoga aims to create.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I'd like to ask you. Go ahead.
can I just circle back
Sure.
to what you originally said, like you're avoiding yoga when you're in pain, and avoidance is like a very good
No, not just when I'm in pain. I avoid it all
oh,
the time.
avoiding in general.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's a good reflection point, like because what do we avoid and what do we resist is a good kind of starting point, what we actually need to
Mm.
ease our way into mind, body, spirit. So once we can really confront that through the breath, through movement, or even through just acknowledging, then wholeness can happen, because wholeness or healing cannot happen if we don't pay attention what we're actually resisting and avoiding.
Mm.
That makes sense.
It does. I
Yeah.
think in my
Absolutely.
coaching business, we talk about what we resist persists, right?
Yes, exactly.
Um, and so, yeah, I think that applies to all areas of the life. So another question that I have is someone was trying to get me to do a particular type of yoga, and I don't know the name of it. I know there's a lot of different kinds, but it was the kind where you don't do a lot of you hold a pose for a long period of time, and they're trying to convince me, and I'm like, you don't understand. When like if I were to sit here and squeeze my back muscles for a period of time, I'll go into spasm like crazy. I'm like, that's not for me. So where would I start? Like, what's the type or the name of the yoga where I would start, in your opinion?
Oh, so that's gonna be hard only because I can name a class whatever I want to name it. So, for
Oh,
example, if you search a studio and it says they teach hatha yoga, they're not
hmm,
telling you what kind of yoga they teach. Hatha yoga just means physical practice of yoga. It doesn't actually tell you anything that
oh,
they're going to be doing with you. But I would suggest no vinyasa, nothing that says vinyasa, because right now you don't need to be doing push-ups and you don't need to be doing things like that.
okay,
I would suggest a practice in which you're holding for a minimum of 5 breaths but a maximum of about 10,
okay,
and practices that are more restorative, where they're working, like Dr. Patricia said, with the fascia. In restorative poses, you are holding for a longer amount of time, but it's a yin hold, not a yang hold. And the difference is a yin hold is opening you into the pose by you holding and using gravity to deepen your pose. A yang pose is using your muscles to hold you up. So you start shaking after a while because you're using so much strength. So
yeah,
you don't want to get to that point. You want to get into your body and find limits of the body. But because you have injuries in which you already know that you spasm, you want to avoid things where you're holding for 1 or 2 minutes in poses like side bends or back bends. You
yeah,
want to be more intentional with the amount of time that you spend in the pose. But of course, in restorative, if you don't spend the amount of time in the pose, you don't get to the fascia, because when you're stretching into the pose, there's these little muscles that activate that hold you back, that you can't intentionally be like, hey, fire, or hey, let go. They do so automatically, supporting the other movement or stretches that you're doing. In order for you to get into the fascia, those muscles need to kind of tire out a little bit as you're getting into the pose. And the only way they do that is through time. So those poses should be held a minimum of like 90 seconds or 2 minutes. So it really depends like what you're doing, and just know that if your body's getting you into a place of not just discomfort, but pain, that's not where you want to be. A little discomfort isn't a bad thing, because our body needs a challenge in order to change, right? How do you create muscle? You get to the point where you can't do it anymore. And the body's like, okay, I need either more blood in that muscle or I need more muscle mass. So that's how it determines how to grow that muscle. So you do need a little bit of challenge and discomfort to the body, but you do want to avoid high levels of pain. And if it's a stretch injury, you actually don't want to be stretching all the time, because that's actually a little bit of counterintuitive. What you want to do is work on actually strengthening with lighter weight, more reps, and not so much isometric um, movement, but slow contractions that are going to allow you to be, again, intentional. Not like 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1, 2. So you can feel the body. Remember, it's going to take a second from the muscle to the brain if there's something going on. If you're moving too fast, you're going to move past that signal because your body just can't speak to itself fast enough.
Before you jump in, Dr. Patricia, because I can tell you have something to say. Two things came up for me. One, I have a high tolerance for pain. It's a double-edged sword. I'm an ex-professional athlete, so that's a whole nother story. But the other thing that came up for me is summer before last, I spoke in this group of 1,100 coaches, and then we taught a course, and there was this other guy in the course, and somebody came on and asked a question, and the lady leading it goes, and I answered the question. And the lady goes, yep, that's Carol. She's pragmatic and Marco is woo-woo. So some of those words you were saying, I'm like, that's woo-woo to me because I didn't get it. Nothing wrong with it because I do other woo-woo stuff in my business, but it just made me laugh. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Dr. Patricia, tell us more.
Well, I love what Johanna is saying about how to do it, and kind of not going beyond your comfort level, and the time, um, 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I love that you're framing it in a way that's very tangible. But I also want to bring in the conversation that, um, aside from like the mechanics, no, we come into yoga. Well, for me personally, I advise my patients and clients come in having the intention also of enjoying it, because when we are in pleasure mode and you find a certain way of practice that stimulates like the oxytocin or beta endorphins, which are like the pleasure hormones, regardless of what the technique is, healing can happen. If it's like pleasurable and it's like, oh, you can forget about like the kind of the framework and then just have fun. And I think a lot of people who are in pain, rightfully so, they kind of forget the the intention of having fun, no? Having ease and peace. And yeah, so this is where I guess the intuition comes back in, circling in to, the name of the show, like let your intuition guide you of where it brings you to your healing story. And I hope you find joy when you do your yoga. Yeah.
I wish I'd have known that mindset piece a lot of years ago. I was in it's called Ultimate Leadership Camp. At the time, it
Mm.
was the hardest thing I'd ever done. It was up in the mountains, and I'd made it through Enlightened Warrior Camp, but this was really tough. And I remember that very first day, my roommate and I mean, I had just met her. She was from Canada or something. And so we thought it was optional to go to yoga in the morning. So we didn't go the first day. OMG, bad idea. So the second day we go, neither one of us wanted to be there. So I'm listening to you going, oh, no wonder, man. I was hating it before I got there. Like, what is pleasurable about this?
Well, our expectations really help build our experience, right? So if your
Yes.
It's good for me to hear.
expectation
That's
is
what I'm saying. Like, I don't think I took a lot of
and I love that
mindset.
you said that about oxytocin, because I have dopamine and serotonin
Oh my
on
God. I
on on
love
my
it.
arm, and oxytocin is too big, so I didn't get that molecular thing done. But I agree. A large part of why we move and why we want to work our bodies out is because of the endorphins and the hormones that we help release in the body. Like, we don't work out just because our bodies get strong and we get cute. It's because our brains, like, you literally feel so much better after you move your body. And yoga, as Dr. Patricia said, is a huge way of kind of getting into your sympathetic nervous system and then reestablishing your parasympathetic nervous system and putting you through this motion of, like, you have your blood flowing in certain ways, you have your breath flowing in certain ways, you have oxygen being coming in deeper levels because of the way that you're intentionally breathing. And all of that helps your brain as much as it helps your body.
Yes.
So when you're talking about breathing, back in 2016, there's a great book written by Juliana Erickson called The Other F Word. And the subtitle is How to Forgive Anyone in 7 Days. She's a forgiveness coach, very well known, and a breathworks coach. And so she was in Nashville, and I went to see her. So I had no idea what I was getting into. So the first day I go there, we do our therapy session, and then she has me lie down on the thing. And she says, you're going to start breathing like this. And I was like, what? And she goes, don't worry, you're not going to hyperventilate. And I was like, probably looked petrified, right? So she takes me through this. I'll be right here with you. So she takes me through this thing. And when it was over, I thought I could just sit up. And she like put me, because you can't just sit up. You got to stay down for a while. So she talks to me. Excuse me. Eventually I get to sit up, and I was like drunk as a skunk. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to drive back to my hotel. It was worse than alcohol, but she said it was better. It was better for me than alcohol, because she said my body had never been that oxygenated. So are you saying that yoga helps incorporate a type of breath work like that really gets more oxygen to the whole body and the brain?
Absolutely. I mean, again, a huge part of yoga is what's called pranayama. And pranayama is your ability to affect your energy through your breath. And depending what you need in your body, you can do cooling breathing if you're too hot, which are inhaling like that and exhaling through the nose, or like this, inhaling in between your teeth and exhaling through the nose. That's a cooling breath. You can do a heating breath, which is similar to, I'm assuming, what they had you do, which is more.
No, you had your mouth open. It was constant.
So,
I did this for like 30 minutes. I thought I was going to die.
Yeah. So you have breaths like that, which get you more energized and it get you more oxygenated. You have balancing breaths that help control your emotion, which you can do what's called nadi shodhana, which is alternate nostril breathing. If you have something that you need to hype yourself up for and you're super nervous, you can like stand like Superwoman with your hands on your waist and literally do fire breath or bellows breath. And you can, the power of yoga is in your ability to direct your energy and impact your energy and control your emotions, because your emotions are based on your energy. So like if someone says something to you and your first reaction is it's to get mad, it's to yell at them, what yoga gives you is your ability to just take one breath really deep and literally affect where your energy is going with your breath. And it really is the most powerful tool that yoga gives you. Like if you ask me one thing that yoga has given me, I'm 40 years old and I can walk on my hands and I can do splits and I can do that. That's all great. That's all cool. That's all wonderful. However, the powerful tool that yoga gave me, it's my ability to control my emotions, to control my energy, to control my responses, to be more in alignment with who I am every time that I answer. Because when I get mad, I take a chance to take a breath instead of respond in a way that isn't aligned with who I am and how I want to show up in the world. And I think that is the part of yoga that we don't talk about enough, which is the mental health aspect of yoga. We love the flexibility, we love the strength, we like the yoga body, but that's unrealistic. Like the yoga body isn't going to help you when you lose your job. It isn't going to help you when you lose a loved one, but it will help you get through anything. When it comes to the philosophy and the true practice of yoga.
So Dr. Patricia, I'm going to ask you a question. What is the difference between yoga and Pilates? Do you
I'm
know?
not the best person to ask, but what I think from my personal perspective on practicing yoga, I mean, yoga is an ancient form. It integrates the energetic body, the physical body, and the mind body. Pilates, there's an overlap in terms of like there's that breath and core strength and movement, but I don't think it has a deeper systems of like seeing the wholeness of you. And because essentially from my understanding, Joanna, no, it's like um, yoga is like union, right? And so you're kind of being one instead of separate from your mind, body, spirit. When you're breathing, moving, and thinking in harmony, then wholeness can happen. I don't think Pilates is intentionally created that way, but I'm not a Pilates expert.
I just thought I would ask, because I know that, I mean, I have my best friend, who I call her boss, Dr. Roz. She's an amazing chiropractor and kinesiologist, and she's now doing both. She's going to yoga and she started doing Pilates. And so I was trying to understand. She hasn't really conveyed to me the separate benefits. So I was, in my mind, was trying to
Yes.
see, how different they were, or maybe they
So
were alike.
Pilates is very focused on building core strength. So the way you breathe and the way you move is very much just focused on just creating this really deep core connection.
Okay.
In yoga, as Patricia said, like you're looking to become one with the experience that you're having. So it's beyond the physical, which is why my school is called Beyond Asana Yoga. It goes much beyond just what you're trying to do with your body because of how you're focusing on uniting into the present moment and just being with experience instead of being a person having an experience. You are a part of experience. So it takes you to a different level. Not to jam Pilates. I mean, Pilates is amazing. The breath is a little different. I think they breathe they focus a lot on the exhales.
Mm.
They do a lot of those types of things to focus. But Pilates is more of an exercise, and yoga is more of a way of life.
Right.
Since you've mentioned your school, let's go ahead and take a minute, and you can tell us more about it and how people can connect with you and work with you, and then we'll step over and have Dr. Patricia do the same thing. So, Johanna, go ahead and tell us
I
about
love
how.
that. I mean, you can find me at Bay-Lifestyle. Sure, you can find me at bay-lifestyle.com, or on Instagram, it's at bay_lifestyle PR. You can join us in any of our yoga retreats, wellness retreats, teacher training retreats. And we also do some online courses, and we do some one-on-one work, but it's all based on the yoga philosophy. Even if you're not physically practicing yoga, it's still based on the yoga philosophy. So yeah, I would love for anyone to call me too, 815-501-5070.
Absolutely. And you feel free, if you really want to put that number out there, you can feel free to put it in the comments as well. So anybody that watches this on replay will be able to reach out to you. And as you can see right now, it's going across the banner on the bottom for people to reach out. And I had one quick question for you. You said you traveled all over the world to do this. Do you do it for corporations in the United States? Like a big corporation, if they're bringing their HR is bringing in a wellness
So what I do
program?
for corporations.
I'm sorry. Am I frozen or
So
something?
yes, I've done this for corporations since 2008.
Okay. Awesome. I'll pass your information on to some folks.
And what we do is we build health and wellness programs that take you from the nutritional aspect through the mental aspect through the physical aspect. More teaching you about food and how to use it in your body than teaching you specifically nutrition for yourself. But
Okay.
yes, that's been a huge part of what I do for corporations, neighborhoods, and families even.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Dr. Patricia, how can people work with you and how can they find you?
Yes, so they can find me at thrivewithdrpatricia.com. I also have a free Facebook community, The Thriving Woman. And I'm actually hosting a free retreat, The Radiant You, upcoming March 29 to 31st, where the focus is having more love, having more healing, and harmonizing your life and going beyond the survival mode and really thrive in all areas of your life. Um, and they can email me personally, Dr. Patricia at thrivelifecenter.com. So
And
that's
where is your retreat?
it's an online retreat.
Oh,
So
online. Okay.
yes, so they can register through the website or my Facebook group. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So real quick, ladies, I'm going to come to both of you. If you were just going to give us one takeaway, if we walked away with nothing else, what pearl of wisdom would you give us? Dr. Patricia?
I would say have more joy in your life. You can have it all, especially when you're ready to look at the root cause and have pleasure. Yes, and I would be happy to support all women who wants to have it all.
Fantastic. And it looks like we lost Johanna. I know she was having some technical difficulties. It looks like she's disappeared. So it's a shame we're not on for even longer because I would love to have that joy versus happiness conversation with you. But we're pretty much out of time for today. So everybody, we're here every Wednesday. Come back next Wednesday for the Carol's Courage to Confidence segment of the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. Oh, there she is. Okay, real quick, Johanna, give us one takeaway if we knew nothing else.
Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of your mind. Find a way to get to know who you are. Become the observer of your thoughts and not as identified, because you are so much more than what your mind tells you are.
I love that. And can I say compliments to both of you ladies? I love how you listen to each other. You edified each other. It's been one of the most cohesive interviews I've done. I love that. I really appreciate that about you. So if you're out there listening, if you're listening live, if you're on replay, tell us #replay. Come back and see us every Wednesday. We're here at 3:00 for this segment of the Intuitive Entrepreneur Show. And as you know, my name is Carol Boston, and I'm known as the Queen of Reframe.
Thank you.
Take care. Make it a blessed week, everybody.
The Intuitive Entrepreneur Show is hosted by Max and Janetta Jones and is brought to you by Life Coaching Today magazine, empowering your health, business, community, and life. This has been a production of True Awesome Life Productions, who asked, what does your true awesome life look like? Start that journey today at trueawesomelife.com. For more information on this or past episodes, go to theintuitiveentrepreneurshow.com.